right, so today what we're going to do is we're going to be taking a look at 9-6. It's chapter 11 in Schoology. And we are looking at factoring again. But with the factoring, you're going to notice that the A in the term is no longer 1. It's actually going to be another number. And we are just fulfilling the second standard with solving basic factoring. So let's take a look at this first example. You'll notice that the A is what number? It is 2. That's correct. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take, again, we take this 2 and we take this 5 and we multiply them together to get the top of our x. So what would that be? That would be 10. Yep. Okay. And then if you remember, we take the b term, which is negative 11, and we put that down below. Alright. And then I need to come up with two numbers that when I multiply them together, I get 10, and I add them together, and I get negative 11. And what would those numbers be? Yeah. Okay, let's take a look. So, negative 10 and negative 1. So negative 10 times negative 1 gives me 10. And negative 10 plus negative 1 gives me negative 11. Okay? So that looks like it works. So then let's go back up then. Let's go back up here. And remember, I'm going to take my 2x squared, my minus 11x, and my 5 in my answer there. And I'm going to take and put my negative 10x here, and I'm going to put in my negative 1x here. And you're going to notice that on those, I can flip-flop those two. Okay? I can totally flip-flop those two and it would still work. So now, this is the part that's a little bit trickier. If I take a look at this now, you'll notice that I have a 2x squared here, and I need to put a 2 in either here or here. Okay? So I wouldn't you need to be really careful. I'm going to do this wrong, so don't worry what I'm doing, okay? Let's say I put 2x here. Is there any way that I take that 2x and possibly make negative 1x? There really isn't, unless I multiply by a fraction. Of course, I don't want to do that. So that is the wrong placement of that. Instead, I'm going to take that and I'm going to put the 2x here. Because 2x times 1 would give me negative 10x. It'd be negative 5. That's correct. See that? Okay, and then I'm taking a look at 2x and 2x squared, and I'm going to put the x here. Okay? And then down below on the left-hand side, I'm going to make that a negative 1. And of course, negative 1 times negative 5 gives me positive 5. So then to factor, my answer is x minus 5 and 2x minus 1. And that would be my answer to the factoring part. Okay? Are there any questions on that? Is there something that you look at it and you're like, I don't understand it? Like, why did you choose this? Why did you choose that? move on. Okay, so here's the next problem, and I'm going to put my answer in my boxes. Right? And I'm going to multiply my 5 and my negative 3 to get negative 15, and my middle term is 2. So again, what two numbers that when I multiply them together, I get the top, and when I add them together, I get the bottom? Yes. Okay, so she thinks 5 and negative 3. Let's take a look at that. So 5 times negative 3 gives me negative 15. And 5 plus negative 3 gives me 2. So that looks right. Okay, so then in my box, again, it doesn't matter where I put each one. I'm going to put 5n here and negative 3n here. Right? So now again, it's kind of tricky, and I have to think about what goes up above and on the side. So let's take a close look at that. What do you think would be the best number to put here? N would be correct, yes. So I'm going to put n here, and what would be the best number to put there? 5n, that's correct. Because 5n times n gives me 5n squared. Okay, now 5n times what gives me 5n? 1. And n times what gives me negative 3n? Negative 3. And of course, negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. N plus 1. And 5n minus 3. There's that. Questions? Okay. Let's go on. Well, what would happen if A was negative? Okay. When you do these, remember we said if it's in standard form, we don't like A to be negative, we like it to be positive. And so what we tend to do is we bring out a negative 1 out front. Okay? And negative 1 times what gives me negative 4x squared? 4x squared, right? So all I'm doing is I'm changing the signs of the numbers. Okay? And then it'd be minus 4x and then minus 3. You see it? It's like the opposite of the distributive property. When I bring a negative 1 out front, I just change the signs of everything inside. So in other words, negative 1 times 4x squared gives me negative 4x squared. Okay? Negative 1 times negative 4x gives me 4x squared. And negative 1 times negative 3 gives me 3. Yeah? So it's like doing the opposite. Okay, now what we're going to do is I'm going to write 4x squared minus 4x and minus 3 diagonally. And the reason why I do that is that's the number now that I got it in standard form and the way I want it, that's like my answer. And then what we'll do is underneath when we're factoring, we're going to put the negative 1 here. Because that's going to come into play a little bit later. Questions? We're okay? Okay. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to take my 4, which is the A term, and the negative 3, which is the C term, and I'm going to do what I did before. There's my negative 12, My middle term is negative 4. What two numbers? Negative 6 and 2. Okay, well, we gotta check that out. We okay? Questions? Okay, so it doesn't matter where I put my numbers. I'm going to put negative 6x here, and I'm going to put 2x here. Okay, now this part can be troublesome for kids, so let me show you how to think about this one. Okay, so to get the 4 that's right there, there are two different ways to get 4 when we multiply. Okay, one of the ways is 1 times 4 gives me 4, or 2 times 2 gives me 4, okay? So it depends on what I want to do. Now, let's say, for example, and I'm going to do this wrong, so don't write me down. Let's say I put the 4x here, and I put the x here, okay? 4x times what gives me 2x? Okay, it'd be a fraction and it'd be yucky. Okay, we don't want to do that. So that doesn't work there. Okay, you can go, well, let's see, maybe I put 4x here and I put x here. Well, 4x times what gives me negative 6x? Again, a fraction, it's yucky, okay? So 4x doesn't work. But 2x and 2x works. Okay, 2x times what gives me negative 6x? Negative 3. And 2x times what gives me 2x? 1. And then 1 times negative 3 gives me negative 3. So 2x and 2x works. Now some kids need to go off to the side and they need to write that down. Some kids don't. You do not have to. I'm just saying that's something you can do if you're having trouble breaking it down. Okay? So then my answer then, notice I have the negative 1 up front, is 2x minus 3 and 2x plus 1. And that would be your answer in practice 1. Are you okay? Questions? Alright, let's go down. And I don't think we need to do this one. Let's go to part 2. I think you are getting this. Am I wrong? Are we okay? Okay. So notice that this is a little bit different because this says to solve, right? Before it told us to factor. So we just need to do one more step, okay? So I'm going to take 2 times negative 35 and I'm going to get negative 70 and my middle term is negative 3. Okay, I'm also going to take my polynomial and I'm going to write it here because the a is positive. What two numbers do you want to use? Negative 35 and 2? Wait, no. Okay. Negative 10 and 7. No? Yes? Okay, well, let's take a look. Negative 10 times 7 gives me negative 70, and negative 10 plus 7 gives me negative 3. Does that make sense? Yep, that one works. Okay, so I'm going to go negative 10x, and then I've got 7x. Okay, what do I do up above here? Just x. Okay, what do I put there? 2x. 2x times what gives me negative 10x? Negative 5. And then 7. Okay, so I end up with x minus 5 and 2x plus 7 equals 0. Okay, and then what did we do to solve that? That's correct. Very good. So we have all these pieces and we've done them before. We're just actually putting them together. So I'm going to add 5 to each side. Okay, and if you need to think about it, that's like, you know, an ordered pair. And I'm just putting it there for you because I want you just to realize that it's again where the travel across the x-axis. Any questions? Something you don't understand? Something you'd like me to clarify? Okay, I think we're good. Yes? Does anyone need me to do anything more? Okay, I assume we're fine. If you have questions, make sure that you ask.